Hey there, for this video I've put together the basic body of a mill house that I'm making for a diorama. There will be a follow-up video where I'll include the water wheel that I've made from scratch, but I ran out of time. But in this one you'll just get to see how I made the base with XPS foam and the building itself just from cardboard and some scraps of wood like matches and that kind of thing. It's a really nice basic build, so I hope you enjoy it and let's get into it. I'm starting out where I left off in my last video where I made a jig so I could make stairs. I've just roughly made these stairs and cut a piece of XPS foam to fit along with them, and I'm just going to mark out where the staircase is going to be glued down so I can draw in all my stonework without having to do more than is necessary. I draw really crudely around the doorway and then just draw random sort of stone shapes in, some horizontal, some vertical. And I just sort of draw them here and there and then start to fill them in so that way I don't have to stare at a reference while I'm drawing. It turns out quite natural this way. I draw them in much heavier, and after I go gluing them all down together, I will draw in the stone pattern again just to make sure it's all really nicely put together. Alright, wood glue on this. Let it dry overnight, and while that is drying I'm just going to put together my two side walls and my front and back on a base that will fit onto my XPS foam. Once I hot glue it together, it's ready to just check and make sure it fits neatly, which it does, and then I can put a roof on. I've cut some pieces to fit for the roof just out of some food packaging. It's fairly thin so I can bend a little bit to fit snugly. But before I do it, I wanted to put some windows in because I wanted to have these nice sort of Tudor style looking glass windows, which are just made from these plastic like fruit and veggie trays. I ended up putting them in there just for the video, but I did cover them later because the scale was wrong. You can probably already see that it's just a little off. But when putting windows in, this is a good way to do it. Now I can put the roof on, making sure that the cardboard corrugations are running horizontally, just so I can get that little curve, because there is a slight curve on my roof. Both sides hot glued down neatly. And now I'm going to pop these templates that I'd cut out of the doors and windows back in before I go spraying the building. It's just to cover the windows so they wouldn't get paint on them. But I mean, this is a good thing. I've never done this before. I thought it was a good idea. Unfortunately, the windows just did not work out, but I put this in nonetheless. You can see I've put letters on my windows as well, on my little plugs, just so I know exactly where they came from, with FW for front window and that sort of thing. Right, I'm going to put some shingles on the roof and also some little attic windows. Just cut a neat triangle, and this is the shape that I use to fit, just so it'll angle against the roof. I hot glue this little piece down on there, and once that's done I can also hot glue down the actual attic. Now for the shingles, a bit of tissue box cardboard and a bit of wood glue. It's a bit thick, this wood glue. If it's too runny, your shingles can buckle. So you want it to be fairly thick. You could hot glue these, but it gets messy. You get those webs everywhere doing it that way. So I find glue is a bit better with its wood glue. You just layer them up from the bottom to the top, so the bottom of the shingles where you've cut them along can be exposed like a fringe. And you just go all the way up. Don't do it too quickly, because if the glue is too wet, they start to slide around, as you'll see later on. When I've got this done, it's nice to want to rush it, but it's worth just taking a little bit of time. Once you start getting around angles, you can just cut an angle to fit for each piece as well, like this one. Don't worry about making the exact length to get to the end of the roof either. You can trim them off later all in one go, which is super neat. As you can see, they're done. And now I can trim them off here just on the little peak. I've already done one side. I tend to glue one side down, let it dry, cut it off, and then I do the other, just so I don't get the peaks coming together and not being able to cut them off. That looks pretty good. And you can see there I've put a little patch on the roof. It's because I rushed it and I used too much glue and it slid around and I didn't notice So I had to patch it up. So it makes it look like, you know, the roof is intentionally faulty and not accidentally. So it's me covering my mistakes. Just poke some holes into it so it looks like a sheet of tin or lead or something. There's all sorts of ways you could make this look like a patch. You could have had multiple there if you made a mistake like this. Make the holes a little softer and wider. I don't know if they really look like rivets, but it gives the impression literally and figuratively. And you could even have little little plates going across it, almost like patchwork on fabric. You know, you could put them on each side like this. All sorts of ways of making really extra nice detail just to cover up mistakes. Sometimes my best work has come from terrible mistakes that I've made. Always persist. Alright, it's time to give it a coat of paint. Spray paint for the cardboard and definitely acrylic paint for the foam, otherwise you will dissolve it. It must always have water-based product used on it. I end up using mine like a palette. I'm a bit impatient with things, so I just put a blob of paint on top and I can rapidly dip back into it and get it done nice and quickly, and don't have to clean up a palette when I'm done either. Get into all those grooves, it'll help protect the foam. Now they're both done and rather shiny looking. I need to knock back that shine with some very flat paint. I just use like the pots of sample paints for this kind of thing because they're so flat, and it's just a grey. It's a relatively sort of a dark grey, but it looks very light under the camera because it's going on to black. And I just put it liberally everywhere, but most definitely I do it unevenly. I don't want everything painted like you would paint a wall, an interior wall of a house. I want it nice and roughly done. Give it a couple of coats on the walls of the building, and also for the brick or the stone, just a real good slap of it. You don't have to worry about getting into the grooves. They're going to be filled later with some filler. And that's it, everything basically coated, and the shine is knocked back quite well. And now another grey, which also looks white now against the darker grey underneath it, but I can assure you it is definitely grey. I want it to have that sort of Tudor looking white exterior, but if you use white it is going to be really, really stark, so definitely use lighter greys. Again, roughly painted, I don't want perfect brush strokes. Nice and roughly done. I'm also going to put more of it onto the roof. I'm sort of pushing it against the bottom of each of the shingles because later on when I go adding colour to the roof, the lighter colour underneath is going to help the ones on top sort of be lifted and be a little lighter and a little different. So it just kind of, it adds different tones instead of just putting down one coat of paint and then everything being flat in the same colour. Just get it everywhere. And now it's ready for some colour. For the roof, I'm going to use what I would describe as autumn colours or fall colours. It's just a yellow ochre and some burnt sienna and burnt umber. Definitely don't use bright colours like yellow and orange. They are way over the top. These ones are colourful enough and they look quite good. I've sort of mottled the colours on the brush. Again, I do not want one even colour. I want them all different colours, just here, there and everywhere. I mean, it's overall kind of an orange. And I'm now accentuating it by putting little dabs of the yellow ochre and the brown and that colour I mixed roughly sort of here and there, so everything is really sporadically nicely mottled and deliberately uneven. Definitely don't want to paint it all one colour because it would start to look really strange. And now for the stonework, again with the same colours from the roof, but a bit more of this light grey, which comes off as white on the darker grey. And now it's time to put on the lightweight polyfiller. I just get a small handful and then I just push it in, and I work it really quickly because it sets very quickly, but I just push it on and then sort of rub it in a circular motion, and it kind of balls up under my fingers and it literally just falls away, and everything that was pushed on goes in between each stone, looking like mortar. It's great. It's so quick and so easy. And you just get all the little crumbly bits that fell off, and yeah, it's great stuff. Put some onto the stairs. It was a little awkward. I've never done this before, but I just jammed it on there, and once I pushed it in as best I could, I ended up using a coffee stirrer to push it across, because a coffee stirrer was the measurement I used to make my jig, which is the size of the steps anyway, so that worked out quite nicely. That's good. They were the easiest stairs I've ever made. I love that jig. I'll be using that forever. And I'll make sure to leave a link for it in the comment section. Nice. Let this dry very well. If you don't let it dry before putting on a bit of a stain, you will find it dissolves and you're going to have a milky, strange looking wash instead of brown. I put a little bit on the back there just so I could experiment and make sure it was correct. I always test everything in the back of everything I build. This is just watered down acrylic paint, brown and black. I just lay it on there with a nice big brush, do it as quickly as I can. Again, even though this is dried overnight, I don't want it to dissolving the lightweight polyfiller. I want to get it on really quickly and then get it off. It's soaking in really quickly, and then just a clean tissue just to dab it off, especially at the top. I want a little bit at the bottom, but just to pull it away so you haven't got it pooling everywhere and soaking in too much. It's just the right amount of stain. The amount that you mix with your water would make all the difference with this. If it's too runny, you might have to do a couple of coats. If it's really thick, you'd probably have to be very quick with it. You can see mine is, it's a relatively heavy kind of wash that I've made, but I didn't want to have to faff around doing more than one go at it. And just dab it off roughly. Don't do it perfectly. You want it to look a little darker in spots. And then a bit more around the bottom after it's dried a little bit, so it looks like grime and that kind of thing. And you can put moss and all that sort of good stuff in there later on. You can also tip it upside down and let it run a little bit, which is a nice thing. Let it bleed upwards so it looks like it's creeping up. It's a nice effect. Really easy way to make stonework. That was fun. I liked it. Now it's time to put some detailing on the body of the building. I can pull these plugs out. I thought that was a good idea. I'm going to start doing that from now on. It's a really nice way to get the clear plastic inside the building, and then you can put the framework on the outside. I've got a door made out of balsa wood and matches, and some coffee stirrers for some awnings, and just some stain, and just all my little wooden bits, and just drop them in. Give them a little tiny bit of a soak. You just pop them out and drain them really well. If you find it's not dark enough, you could stain it again, because everything always lightens up after it's dried. And then a bit of a dry brush. It looks so rough, but that's how I wanted it intentionally, which is good because it seems to be the way I make things anyway. A little tiny door knocker out of a bit of a necklace that I found. Super glued it on there, and that's that. Let's put some wood glue on the back and place it in. Super easy. Looks good. Now for some detailing on the corners of the building. It's just this corner stuff. I think it's for dolls' houses. I use it all the time these days. You could use coffee stirrers either side of each corner if you don't have something like this. Everything's been stained the same colour. I had matches and things ready to do these windows, and but you can see the scale is just wrong. Then I went to put in some sort of Tudor style bars, and it just everything was wrong, so I made these instead. Bit of tissue box cardboard, balsa wood that I glued on, and some little bits of tissue box cardboard. I had to cover the windows because I'd spent 2 days trying to make them and realising that I was in trouble. So I just cut my little pieces of tissue box into tiny little strips for the hinges and just super glue them on. You can see just It's so basic, but I did not know what else to do, so this is what I did. If you can't fix it, hide it. That's my motto. These are actually really quick and easy. I enjoyed making these. I felt rather relieved once I'd got it done. Just trim them off. They almost look like books. It's amazing what you can come up with when you are worked into a corner. This little pokey tool too, I just used it to make it look like there's little rivets on there. You just poke them down, it'll help push on the bit of cardboard to the glue as well. Looks good. I like them. I think I like them just because they got me out of trouble though. After a black spray, I put a nice heavy layer of grey paint just to really pop that wood grain out of the balsa wood. You could use coffee stirrers or popsicle sticks for this as well, but I like the balsa wood because it's got a really good grain to it. Nice and roughly done. I want them to look old and crummy. Bit more light around this. This is not the same colour as the walls. I wanted it to be different. And a little bit of black for the hinges. You could put a nice dry brush on this and make these super detailed if you wanted to. I didn't. I was just glad it was over and done with. But they came out good. I'm happy. Very, very happy. And it's something new, which makes me happy. Bit of wood glue on the back just because it gives me a little bit of time. I love super glue, but you don't get any time for moving and positioning. This one I can just slide it around and make sure it's correct because I eyeball everything. You can see it's slightly different to the colour of the wall with the backing on that. Door made out of balsa wood and some different matches. The frame is bigger matches and the little bars across the front are just smaller matches, like regular size matches. The same treatment as the window, just I sprayed them and then gave them some grey. Plonk it on there and seal it up. Nothing fancy about this. Large matches that I've stained with the same stuff I used earlier and just put a little point on the top to make sure it fits. Just so that Tudor style detailing. I didn't measure any of this either. I'm going to end up doing more of this on the building later when I do the next video, but I just sort of freestyled it and thought I would again take the easiest route with it. But it looks nice. It does wonders for it. Don't worry when you do something like this. If you can't measure, you just cut each piece as you go and it just snugly, magically works. Now it's time to add a bit of grime. You can see how nice and clean the walls are, which is not good enough. They've got to be nice and grubby and old looking. I didn't have anything to put on and I didn't want to use a wash, so I used this makeup. It's I guess it works like a pastel. It did a good enough job for me, so I just dry brushed it onto that. I would suggest you probably use a pastel if you haven't got makeup laying around. But yeah, I just want to get it into all the areas where grime might build up, just to make everything look less new all around, and subtly sort of build it inward. You can put as much or as little as you'd like onto it. I'm going to build this up later as well. And now I've got to put on the railings and the balusters. I've just made these out of balsa wood and matchsticks. I'll also drop a link for how I made these. They look beautiful. I love the way they finish up on a building. They just look so good. And you can see I've angled this. Always angle things, your awnings. You'll find they don't sit properly. Another little one. The way I make these is a lot easier than using singular matchsticks all the way around, plus they're smaller. You can make a much smaller scale using the balsa wood for these. I'm going to glue them down and let them thoroughly dry or cure. And then my coffee stirrer awnings, I've just cut a little corner out of that one because it didn't fit. Looks good. I'll super glue that down. And the last long one. That stain looks great. I put a little dry brush on that too. You can see it just there at the front. And that's all there is for this one. It's turned out quite nice. It's very basic, but it's got none of the beautiful detailing of the diorama yet, which I'm really looking forward to doing. And also the water wheel. And I'd like to get some resin on there and make something really, really beautiful out of it. Well, I do hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you found something useful within it. I know I learned some things, and I do hope to see you next time.